Thank you so much for joining us today. Our theme is Mission Matters, and you had a big mission. You left basketball and chose to pursue kind of this different direction. Can you talk about the impact that you chose in impacting one person versus impacting many people?
Yeah, that's such a great question for the time that we live in, where we can have access to the world, through technology, and there's just this subtle, unspoken even pressure to impact many as the only way to evaluate your success. And so that was like the opposite of my path. It ended up being where going from being on the court, playing and influencing thousands, to doing the hidden work of fighting and relating to one person. And so I just want to encourage you guys to remember it has to start small. It has to be authentic. It has to be organic. The things that I'm now able to share with many people is completely and totally based off of my experience with one. It started with one. And so there's a way that we do things. There's a way that things actually are helpful and authentic and powerful, is when it's real. And so I think it's most real when it starts with that one experience that you have with another human, with another small group, that you can then share to other humans who can replicate or be inspired by that one. So it's very tempting to jump out of the gates and to measure your success by numbers immediately, but always remember that quality, over quantity, especially in the beginning, because what are you going to give the quantity if the quality isn't there?
And Jonathan, you were the one, right? That must have been humbling. How did that feel as she kind of attacked this injustice with you?
Man, as I sat in my cell after we get off the phone and just living my life like I was aware of it, I started to go to the library and have new wind. And there were times where I would spend 20 hours a day researching and writing law, drafting my habeas petition, which led to my freedom. By writing that, she kept me going. It wasn't just her. She wasn't by herself. There was a team of people. It takes that. You have to use your team and be involved with your team and communicate the vision. And we all work together. And I'll be honest. I knew other guys that were innocent in there, and they didn't have help. And there's a sea of people in prison that say they're innocent. You just don't know until you see the facts. But the fact that it was me, like, it was humbling, and it blessed me, and it gave me strength in a dry land. It was like water, getting a cold glass of water, sitting out in the desert.
There's a term I've heard you guys talk about, suffering well, which I can't even comprehend that, but you've processed that. What does that mean to you? What does it mean to suffer well?
Go ahead, babe.
So if you're a person that is going to be helped, that's suffering, like you don't want to wax, mumble, and complain all the time. Like you want to be thankful for what you have, and the pain of whatever you're going through. You cannot let it cause you to harm other people by your words and your actions.
Wow.
So that means you have to have a different heart posture.
Yeah, we can go home on that.
I have to ask a follow.
Yeah.
How does that not affect your entire being, right? When you're going through that.
There's a prayer called the acceptance prayer, the serenity prayer. You got to know the difference between the things that you can change, the things you can't, and you have to have the wisdom to know the difference. There are some sufferings that you cannot change, and if that's a reality that you cannot change, like, you can't focus on that because all the time, because if you focus on that, like, you will miss all of the other things that you have going on and all the beauty. Yeah.
And I was going to say, Jeff, speaking from, I feel like where some of you are sitting from, I see the suffering, I want to do something with the resources that I have to try to help. And this is something that in our day and age, again, just I think with the technology and how it's impacting our day-to-day, like being with people in their stuff and making it your stuff. Like I had to, over time, make Jonathan's stuff my stuff, because that's what you do when you have relationships with people. That's what life is about, is my basketball experience. If you're doing that to Simone, you're doing that to me. Like this is our team. This is our squad, and our heartbeat is expanding your vision of who your squad is, right? Your squad isn't just the people that you're most comfortable with. Your squad is the prisoner. Your squad is the foreigner. Your squad is the orphan. And these aren't my ideas. These come from ancient human ideas. But, have the courage to be in the presence of people and weep with them when they weep. Rejoice with them when they rejoice. And create margin in your life, because you can only do so much. So create that margin in your life so you have some emotional capacity. Get some emotional tools. We have so many tools, right? To know how to carry hard things, and you do it with other people. We don't do it alone. And so suffering well, I think, it just means the suffering that you do doesn't make you less human. Let that suffering make you more human, make you more empathetic, make you more compassionate, make you more resilient, make you have more perseverance. And like Jonathan said, once you let yourself be moved by the struggle, find a way to keep moving through the suffering.
Yes.
And keep moving forward. And again, it's so much easier and better when you have a team or you have people who've been there and can pull you along and show you the way. Build that team of people that know how to do hard things, and you will make it through.
How many times did your case not get you? How many times did you take it back to the court? How many times was it?
So, back to the library. I went to the library and I didn't know anything. And then I learned things. I remember the first book I read, I drooled on it. Because I fell asleep. I didn't understand any of it. Woke up sad and dejected. 6 months later, I stayed in it. And I started to understand conversations. And then I started talking to different lawyers and helping other guys around the prison. And like they were impressed with what I was doing and my knowledge. And I was impressed with myself. I'm like, man, I got this. It's like, what's going on? So it's time to file an appeal. And I read every case. I looked at every treaty, every statute, every precept, everything related to it. I connected all the dots. And before you know it, I lost 11 appeals. Not every year. Like sometimes appeal lasts anywhere from 1 to 2, maybe 3 years. Back to back to back to back. And I had hope, and I was going forward. And yes, those were failures. I failed to come home. But there was a lesson in all of that. I was learning.
In your book, you wrote this quote: "When you deprive people of their basic and fundamental needs, you put them in a dogfight for resources and respect." That is a powerful idea around dignity. Can you go further into this? Like, how does that play out for you in the things you see?
When I was inside, I saw, you wouldn't think you'd see doctors and lawyers and police officers in prison. There was this one guy who was a doctor. I saw a lot of articles about him. He had ads on TV. A few years later, he's in the R&O block, and I'm like, "Hey man, I saw you on TV." He said, "Yeah, I was on TV." Didn't want to get into why he was there. And a few years after that, I started to see him completely turn into a savage. Like he started robbing people, started carrying a knife, didn't care about his appearance. Like he had bags under his eyes. And I remember he got into a fight with a guy over a 20-cent soup. 20-cent soup. And it just rocked me. You would think after a person has gone through school and all of that, had all this social training, and all this in their community, that wouldn't happen. But it did. And it caused me to want to think about, like, man, like if I was doing well and I didn't have my resources, how am I going to act? And it caused me to, just to further dig into myself and actually talk to my friends about that. And I would say, hey, man, just because you don't have a certain amount of things don't mean you got to act less than or a savage or lower yourself. Like you are still a human being and you have dignity and that you matter. Even though they label you as a prisoner, yeah, I'm a prisoner too, but I'm telling you that you're more than that.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Come on. Yeah, that is my heartbeat, something I've been talking about since I stepped away from the game. Well, while I was playing, but especially now that I've stepped away to the game, is the championship is not a trophy that we hold up when we're watching all these sports teams play. The championship is seeing people flourish. Human flourishing, human dignity. That's why we are alive. If we're confused about our purpose, that's what it is. To do everything within our power to bring dignity and flourishing to our community. And so it kills me when I see anybody being dehumanized. It's the lie. That's not who we are. We are human beings with worth and dignity, with these special gifts that deserve to be nurtured and developed for the benefit of our community. I mean, that's exciting work, right? So if we have leaders, if we have systems, if we have cultures that you sense or see any thread of dehumanization, it is our responsibility to cut that off and replace it with dignity. If we have that power, if we vote, right? We're going to talk about that a little bit later. Vote for people in our local politics, especially in our prosecutors' offices, especially, that have language and action that is about human dignity. And you can tell if you spend time with people and how they talk and how they treat people, how they see the world, if they value human beings or if they see human beings as a means to an end of some sort of power or comfort or self-protectiveness. You guys know what I'm talking about. So, I get inspired of the beginning of your question of when you set people up for that scarcity mindset. We have the ability to not set people up for that.
Yes.
By how we share, by how we speak, by how we structure things, so that power is given to people to use it for good with boundaries. And we can do so much. We just have to believe we can and be that so other people can see it. That's how things change. When people see, oh, they're doing it like that, we can do it like that. So I get really excited when I see, like in our story, things change and now people can see, oh, that's possible, and then they do it, and then they do it, and we keep talking about it, right? Because we have a lot of bad news that we get access to, but let's talk about the good news, because there's good things going on. And we just got to keep talking about it like we are this morning.
So you win everything. Literally, you've won literally. You win in high school, in college, in the WNBA. You won this trial. You're probably like, this is like, it's an amazing ability you have, right? This is actually a true story. But so what does success mean to you now? I mean, because I think it's you're living a different story than the basketball season of your life. I'm curious what success and celebration means to you today.
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. My secret to all those things that you just mentioned was I was on great teams, like literally. Including the Team Jonathan, First of all, can we take a minute? He taught himself law in prison. Can we clap for that?
That's amazing.
Incredible. That's right. Like, that was my teammate, right? So the success comes because I was on great teams and people who've come before me to set these cultures of unselfishness, of wanting the best for the other, of hard work, of perseverance. Like, all the things that we're doing now matter for the next ones coming up. Like I'm a beneficiary of, I was the next one, and now I'm trying to be the next, pass it on to the next one. But like we talked about earlier, success is not just the statistic, right? It's not just how many points did she score. The success is connection with your fellow human. Success is becoming more of who you were created to be with your fellow humans. Success is joy. Success is suffering well. Success happens when no one's watching and when you have a platform in front of thousands or millions. And so I don't want success to be put in this box of a certain stat, right? Success is qualitative. And sometimes you can't put a label on that, but you'll know when you see flourishing. Success is a step towards flourishing. And you guys know what I'm talking about. You know what that looks like and it feels like, but sometimes in our culture, we don't have labels or trophies for those things. And so as leaders, try to cultivate a way to celebrate when you see steps towards flourishing. And that will just catch on, and people will start doing it and look forward to it and jump into it. So I love to see when people start redefining success in a more of a qualitative term than an appearance of success, which is way easier to be performative and to put on, but actual qualitative success and celebrating that. And that's what we do. Our life right now is about celebration, right? There's enough hard things and work to do. But we got to stop and celebrate the good things and the things that are growing and the things that are beautiful, and to feel appreciated, right? Like, what's it all for if we can't enjoy when we see life and we see success? So that's what I'm in charge of that in our home, in our community right now. I plan the parties. I try to see the people and be like, did you see so-and-so did so-and-so with that? Oh, we're going to have a dinner. Like, plan the thing and stop and do that. It will fuel you for the next few months, right?
Yeah.
So I'm all about celebrating.
And Jonathan, you worked 23 and a half years for the chance to be released, right?
Yeah.
So then that happened, and then what did you work toward? You gave everything for that moment, and then what does success look after that moment for you?
In general, I'll start with success. Like, we have a tendency, man, you may not be a Maya Moore, irons. You may not win, everything on every level. You may not be able to shoot threes from half court. You may not be that person. I'm just saying. So what about the people who may not be so skilled or just starting out that don't know? Like, I started from behind enemy lines in the belly of the beast. I didn't know anything. So if you break success down to its microscopic level, sometimes you have to do that. Every failure is a success if you learn from it. Like, that is extremely important. So after 23 years, I get free. Every day I was in prison, everything I was doing, I would say to myself, this is my preparation ground. I'm preparing for something in the future. And I came home, the world opened up. I got a cell phone and the internet. Woo! I tell you, just download. I've been learning. I just to give you kind of like, a hint of some of the things that I'm doing. I'm an entrepreneur. I have started a dog training and boarding business called Dogs We Trust, LLC. Yes. It's very successful. I have a team with me that helps as well. And I'm approaching dog training and boarding from a different angle, because I actually live with dogs in prison for over 10 years. And I say live with them, like there was a small cell the size of a bathroom with a bunk bed. And a bunch of us were in a lawsuit because of the sizes of prison cells. So they said, man, guys, we got these dogs. We want to bring them to you. But you guys have these lawsuits. And a lot of us did the math, like, okay, I'll sign my name off the math so they could bring the dog in the cell with us. It was such a great thing. And so I got immersed completely in the culture, and I understood dogs to this day, like on a cultural communication level. I actually communicate with dogs. I understand everything that they're saying. And once you learn one, they all say the same thing. they do. So that's one thing I'm. See, a lot of y'all dog lovers, y'all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
They're family. And then in addition to that, I'm an advisor for a Superior Court judge down in Cobb County. And I get to speak from my experience, my legal background, and my situational background, my history, my environment in prison, and what prison life is like. I get to speak to him as he sits in these trials. And he has the ability to sentence people to death and also decide multi-million-dollar cases and everything in between. And so that's an extremely difficult job. And he was a former prosecutor. So he's learning and requires, people to really speak into his space that have knowledge that he trusts. And he trusts me. I have a son. I'm married. Like every day that we get our routine together, because getting married I just got out of prison, trying to figure out things.
It's a lot.
I'm a little rough and rugged because in the environment, and if she's sweet and tender, I had to calm some of that down. It's like, So just being a part of society and being a good husband, like my greatest, I used to say this for years, my greatest ambition was to be a good father. And every day my son gets up and says, "Hi, Dad." And if I don't say nothing, "Hi, Dad." "Hi, Dad." Like, "Hi, JJ." Like, she's happy, and just I'm connected with the people in my community, and I make friends every day. Like every friend I make, that's success to me.
So good.
Yeah.
So good. So Maya, this year, women's basketball went to another stratosphere, right? Yeah. But you have an interesting view on all that. Can you kind of unpack how you see this kind of weird space between entertainment, influence, and then how you see yourself?
Mm-hmm. Is this a therapy session?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll be here all day,
Welcome
folks. It'll be good.
to Maya Moore's therapy session. Maya Moore Iron's therapy session with Jeff.
I love it.
It's a process, right? Like women's sports is still kind of a new thing in culture. Women haven't been had the permission really to be sports people in society, and so that's a whole nother conversation of women's place in culture, the sport and entertainment industry in general for humanity, right? We have this love of watching our teams and cheering, and there's something about sports and that aspect of doing stuff together, watching people work hard to try to achieve something great. But then there's the industry that is just go, 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 which we know is not good for humans, right? So we've got also an aspect of fame that we know there's some things that are not good about being super, super fame and celebrity, and it's like dehumanizing in a way, and it's just weird, right? Like there's good and bad, it's messy. And so I've been trying to process that, like stars are humans, right? I'm come from a land of stars, but the story we're told about our stardom, that's not real life. Like we're humans, we have limits, we need rest, we need humility. Life doesn't revolve around us. All the people saying yes to us, that's not real life. You don't always hear yes, right? You become a spouse and a parent, and you learn that real quick. And so I am in this world of trying to navigate, the good story you can use with influence and platform while not getting deceived into thinking your platform is real life. It's that balance of I want to make sure I'm living real life, but when I do get a chance to have a platform and have a voice, I want to be able to share something out of authenticity and being thoughtful, of being helpful to who I'm speaking to. So I think when it comes to platform, you want to be able to have something to offer people that's thoughtful and helpful, thinking about who you're talking to. And then, trying to be a voice into the sport and entertainment space of reminding the leaders of that world, we're human beings. We're human beings. We're not products. We're human beings. We're human beings. We're human beings. Let us not forget that that person you're talking trash to through the TV that's on the other team is a human being. And the person that you're painting as the superhero, they're a human being. You're a human being. And so let's not let that arena space, that arena mindset, that coliseum, where sports come from, like, they're people. And so, you might be able to interact and engage with people in the sport entertainment space. Treat them like humans. Help them be human in these spaces if you have partnerships with them, and empower the people you're helping to make sure they feel like humans too.
That's good.
That's good. Love it.
That's good, man.
So you're sitting in front of hundreds of nonprofit leaders, and specifically Jonathan, I mean, you have an incredible story of resilience. These people are trying to address other injustices in all these communities. And it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to believe that you're making any difference. And so you have to keep going. What could you say to these nonprofit leaders to keep going today? Because they're probably tired, they're probably exhausted, they're burned out, they don't have enough resources. How do they keep going?
I would first ask you to narrow your scope. Like, sometimes there's so many injustices in the world, so many things to get involved in, so many people to help, and you want to help everybody, but it's just not possible. So you want to be clear about your mission, like what you're going to do, and avoid mission creep, because it's going to come in. There are going to be people with all these new bright ideas that's going to pull you away from the mission. Like, and you have to pull it back, get on point, and then, man, be prepared for a fight. Sometimes it's going to be the fight of your life, even to get an inch. Like, the work that you're doing, like, if it was easy and profitable, man, big business would be doing it. just being honest with you. Sometimes you may go home and you may not be making a lot of money. That's just the reality of it. Your staff may be complaining about the money that they're doing. But keep this in your mind. Like, think about where you're going and celebrate how far you've gone. Like, literally, if you had the gall and the motivation to go get your 501c3, celebrate that. Mm-hmm. If you have a website, celebrate that. If you have clear information and bullet points and all the information on there, celebrate that. You know what I'm saying? For real.
Yes.
Man, if you wake up in the morning, celebrate that. If you get someone to change their idea or their thought just by a little bit, man, celebrate that. There's so many things that you can celebrate. Like, sometimes the ultimate goal of the nonprofit may be 20 or 30 years out. And you may just be preparing the ground for the next generation. Some of this work that you're doing is generational work. Mm-hmm. Like some of these nonprofits, the real successful, they've been around 30, 40, 50, 60
yes.
years. You think you're going to come in this conversation like a microwave, whoop, done? No. No, it's just not going to happen. So don't get overwhelmed by how hard the work is. Like, you can't eat a mountain in a day. You just can't. You got to chip at it little by little each day. And before you know it, you may have a whole side of the mountain chipped away, because you're chipping away every single day. It's about small steps, half steps, not whole steps, half steps in the right direction, on the right path. And I promise you, you'll get there. Or your vision may get there with another crew. You just lay the groundwork and get it going, and you keep the momentum going.
That's so good. Maya, what's your next? That's good. What do you feel like your next pursuit is in this mission-minded work? I know you have a nonprofit. You guys have a nonprofit together. Can you share a little bit about what you're working on next?
So our nonprofit is called Win with Justice. So like Jonathan was saying, when I was first being exposed to mass incarceration and all the overwhelming, reality of just prison reform and different things, I was advised to pick a lane and run in it, because there's so many lanes and you can't do all the lanes. And so because I have a voice and a platform, pick a lane where I can encourage people to do something tangible, like vote. And so prosecutorial reform was the lane I was encouraged to run in, because prosecutors are so powerful in our justice system. And I had never voted for a prosecutor. I've won gold medals, but I didn't know who my prosecutor was, right? So slow down, start to understand your local needs, and then see what you can do about it. And I could, with Jonathan's help and his expertise, start a nonprofit to help encourage people. This is how we focus on holding our prosecutors accountable, who are really in charge of justice, and empowering those who do the hard work of being human-minded when they're making their decisions. And so our vision for Win with Justice is to continue to educate people, continue to share powerful, good stories. We have a book that came out last year. We took the time, and all the things in these early years of Jonathan's release, we wrote a book. It was a lot, but it's so good. And if you can get your hands on it and share it, it's just super encouraging. But we're in the process of sharing our story.
Yeah, we just put up, there's a link
we're
to where
prepared.
you can get the book. Yeah,
I like being prepared. Celebrate
sure,
that.
listen, I read it when it came out, and I read it the last 2 weeks in preparation for this. And it will be worth all of your time and energy. It will lift your spirit. So I want to encourage you to get that book today for sure.
So that's what we're doing, trying to build our home. He's doing renovations on the dog business to keep, he's employing people in the community. It's just we're doing a lot of life-giving things, but just mainly trying to educate and share our story, and hopefully encourage people with some of the good things that are happening when we do some of the things that we've been talking about.
I love it. Listen, do you all love Jonathan and Maya? This is like, can you join me in thanking them today? Please give them a rousing stand ovation.